Hello, bonjour, Alberta. Did you know that at least 238,000 people speak Français in Alberta? And those numbers just keep on growing? Oui, oui, c'est vrai, it's true. And thanks to Shaw TV Community Access Programming, we get to reach out to everyone to let you know all about special people, places, events, and activities happening right here in this great province, in both English and en français. That's right, mes amis. We begin the first part of our program in English, and then we repeat it en français. So stay with us. Restez à l'écoute.
Welcome, everyone, to 2016 and Season 10 of Hello, Bonjour, Alberta. I'm Anne Boiteau.
And I'm Mark Lalonde.
And tonight, we're very pleased to have with us Michael Connelly, MLA for Calgary, Hawkwood. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
And congratulations
Thanks
as
so
well.
much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good. So, Michael, we'll start a little bit with a little bit of your history, where you're from and where you learned French, your family. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. So I was born here in Calgary. I have one sister, one brother, Chantal and Brett. They're both older. My mother and father split when I was 2, and so I have a stepfather and a stepbrother. I have a stepfather and a stepmother. And my stepmother has 2 kids, Jeremy and Casey. So that's where it all started, and then I started French immersion when I was in kindergarten. So I'm the only one in my family who still speaks French. My mom still is able to speak a little bit of French. She's from Montreal, and my grandfather's from Montreal as well. But they're both Anglophone, but they grew up close to Maisonneuve in Montreal. So we're with the Francophones, but they're all Anglophones. So that was very interesting. I was the only one who decided to take up French immersion as a child. So from kindergarten to grade 12, I was trying to learn French. And then after that, I went to the University of Ottawa, where I did half my course in French and half in English with my degree in history and political science that I haven't been able to finish since I got this job. So it's been a little bit of a journey.
So are you saying that as a child you decided to go into immersion?
Yeah, my mother gave me the choice. She said I can go into French immersion or I can go to English school like my brother and sister did. So I decided to do something different and go to French immersion.
Yeah, I think that's the younger child thing.
We just wanted to stray away from the path.
Yeah, exactly.
And it paid off for you.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes, right? So while you were at university, you told me, you worked at the Parliament, right?
Yeah, so I was able to work on Parliament Hill for Nikki Ashton, who is the MP for Manitoba Churchill. She's still the MP, but the riding has changed names. It's Churchill Asquith, something I cannot pronounce.
Okay.
So it's almost all of northern Manitoba. So Nikki was the critic for Women's Affairs when I first started. So I worked for her for 3 years. So the first 2 years she was critic for Women's Affairs. So I was able to learn a lot about solidarity and women's issues and how we can combat wage inequality and that kind of thing throughout the country. And then the later year she was the critic for Aboriginal Affairs. So we changed it to Indigenous Affairs. Not over half of her writing, 80% of her writing is First Nations and Indigenous peoples. So being able to learn about that was incredible as well, because growing up in Calgary, it's not exactly the most diverse place, especially in Southeast Calgary where I grew up. So it was amazing, the people I was able to meet, and yeah.
So did you apply for that gig?
Kind of.
Yeah.
What happened was I was trying to write a paper about, I think it was political ads. So I accosted Nikki in front of the Parliament building and asked her a couple questions. And then after I asked her if she needed interns. And she said, maybe apply, just send an email off to my office. So then I did. And 3 years passed, and I was still with her.
Oh, great.
Did you do the same thing for this job?
Cost people, yeah, that's pretty much what politicians do. I'm sure a couple people came to your doors during the election.
But when did you decide, okay, this is it, I'm entering politics?
I'm going to run.
Yeah.
Well, that was probably, well, it was in 2014 I decided I was going to run federally. So what was that? My second year of university, I decided, why not run in Calgary? Not many people decide to run, so it was very easy to get the nomination.
Okay.
Well, back then it was. Now it's quite a different
Yes,
story.
yes.
So I filled out the forms. I asked everyone. Well, I filled out the forms. Then I went to the normal thing you do. You talk to your riding association and try to get nominated. Mm-hmm. And I was able to do so fairly easily because I was the only one that wanted to be the candidate. So I was nominated in August, and then that January after, so January 2015, I got a call from the Alberta NDP saying, we are thinking there's going to be an election this year, although it's not supposed to be until 2016. Do you think you could be a candidate for us? And I said, well, I don't know if I'll be back in time from university. And they said, okay, well, let us know if you come back early. So I did end up coming back early in March. So I sent them an email saying, we still needed someone, I'm here. And then they told me that they're all full. They're all full. Don't need anyone left. Don't need anyone more.
So we'll keep you on the back burner.
But sign the forms and send them to us. And if we need someone, we'll put you in. So then somebody ended up dropping out in Calgary, Hawkwood, right before the papers had to be in. So then they asked me to step up, and I did.
And here you are.
And here we are.
Yeah. So it was a big campaign, and 16-hour days, and well, huge amounts of dollars to raise, and all of that sort of thing.
Technically, in most campaigns, but of course, in mine. This was kind of more of a stepping stone. I was going to use this to get my name out there a little bit, and then next election build. And most people will see for the NDP, it was always about 3 elections away. So we start this election will be number 1 for Robin Luff in Calgary East. It was this was her second, so she was hoping for the 3rd time they'd actually elect her. So for me, it was very low budget. We spent I guess about $360, and that was all just on campaign literature. So about 250 pieces of campaign literature I was able to put in some people's mailboxes. Obviously not very many, as most ridings have about 50,000 people in them. Mm-hmm. My opponent, the PC, he spent $70,000, and so it was a large difference between us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then, how did it feel that night? Like you're starting to watch TV, and then all of a sudden, people
ahead.
must have been saying, "Hey, you're ahead. You're ahead."
So I was scrutineering. Most of the campaign. I was working on Stephanie McLean's campaign because I was a poor student and needed money. So then I was able to work with her. And all my days off, I go in my own campaign. Or when I was done the night, I would go and put up signs. So I was scrutineering for her, and so it closed at ballots closed at 8. The polls closed at 8. So we started counting, and we were winning. I think we won almost every poll in the place we were counting. And then 8:30, we got a call saying that they declared NDP government. And so we were like, oh, well, it's okay. It's just, I forget what news organization it was, but they always say early. And then at 8:45, they started declaring NDP majority government. And we were like, oh, we should probably get down to the party. we were having a party at the Opera House. So then we all went there, and I was just standing there stunned the whole time. I was winning, I believe, the entire time, usually between 10 and 100 or 200 votes. I ended up winning just over 1,000 votes. So just the entire night I was stunned and wandering around.
So you really didn't have a feeling that people were going to vote for a change in that area?
We were pretty sure.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, especially for me, who wasn't able to do a full campaign, just thinking, well, it's okay, it's very early, the polls are early, it'll probably just go back the way it was, we'll probably win official opposition, we might win 2 or 3 seats in Calgary, but that would be about it. You just always try to keep yourself motivated and down, but like maybe if I knock a few more doors, we'll be able to do it, that kind of thing. And so especially for me, I was always pretty down and saying, well, I probably won't win, but you know, it's possible, but that you don't want to get yourself excited and not be able to sleep for 5 weeks.
For sure.
Yes.
For sure.
So when it happened, I was a bit in a shock. I think,
So you didn't sleep for 5 weeks.
no, exactly.
Afterwards.
Well, I think almost all the Albertans were in a bit of a shock. They didn't exactly expect to see an Alberta NDP government anytime soon, especially not this year or last year now, I guess.
Yeah.
But now you're in government. So
Yeah.
how is that working for you? What priorities are you pursuing?
Right.
We know you're not in cabinet yet.
Yeah.
And how do you go about doing that in government?
Well, it's interesting being in government and being in opposition. In opposition, we're not able to do that much. We're able to do things, and we try our best, and we put up private members' bills. Well, I wasn't in opposition, but when I was working in opposition, we put up private members. We try to get in the media as much as possible. While in government, you try not to be in the media as much as possible, unless it's really good and you know this is helpful for
The
you.
media runs after you.
Exactly. Yeah.
How you go about influencing things or getting yourself involved in those areas?
Well, it's something that I've always looked for, especially even when I was in high school. I was always trying to get the Minister of Education to pay more attention to teachers and education and try to incorporate more, I wouldn't say just progressive themes, but even just modern themes in the curriculums and that kind of thing. And when I was growing up in 2009, the previous government passed Bill, I think it was Bill 9, which made it illegal for teachers to talk about sexual orientation or sexuality or religion in a classroom without the signed consent.
Alberta?
Yeah, without the signed consent of parents. So I believe sexuality is still, you still can't talk about that without signed consent, but after Bill 10 not last year, 2014, they changed that. So teachers can now talk about sexual orientation if they're asked by a student. It's not in curriculum, it's still not in our sexual education curriculum, which is a pretty large problem because it's very prevalent. We talk about homosexuality and trans people and gender non-binary people all the time now. Everywhere, yeah.
But not in school.
But still not in school in Alberta. And we also have an abstinence-based education system compared to a consent-based education, which is what Ontario, Quebec, and I think BC now have. So it's a bit more modern and it's better for the students. You still talk about abstinence, but it's not saying, because I don't.
You don't stop there.
Yeah, exactly. Because high school students will have sex. It's just an obvious kind of thing. And not all high school students, but they are having sex. And that's something that we need to address. It's not a problem, but we need to make sure they're having safe sex and know what it's like and know where to get birth control and condoms and that kind of thing. So that's something I'd really want to bring forward. And to bring things forward in the government, you bring things to the minister. A lot of the times you hear things from constituents, you bring the problems up to the minister or the premier or caucus and you discuss it and you figure out how you can change these things and how you can make it better. So it's been a very open government. It's been very different from what I've heard from other governments, but we are very collaborative.
And in 30 seconds, what is your biggest challenge right now?
My biggest challenge? It's learning everything. It's reading everything. It's trying to figure out exactly how we're going to do things. I have meetings with constituents all the time. They're telling me their stories, and sometimes they're talking about extracting oil, which I'm much better at now than I was before I was elected, or talking about extracting uranium, or talking about advanced education. And of course, advanced education I can talk
Pretty
about.
Good at.
However, other things like healthcare, I'm not as apt at. So it's been difficult.
Michael Connelly, thank you very much for having been with us tonight.
My pleasure.
All of you out there, please stay with us. We continue en français.